of our brothers-in-law. They had to fly to catch a flight. Dov and Moshe Shechter, who flew in today to share in the Simcha. We are grateful to the efforts that they put into coordinating the trip and for their families allowing them to come. When I received the invitation to tonight's dinner, there were two apparent errors that I am sure you all noticed. First of all, it says my wife and I are recipients of the Community Leadership Award. I don't know if I should take it personally, but if I recall correctly, in the past years, it was referred to as the Young Leadership Award. I guess the hair dye isn't working. The second apparent mistake that I am sure that you all are bothered with, but afraid to ask, is why am I being honored by Bais Yakov? I don't have any daughters in Bais Yakov. I don't teach there. I certainly am not an alumnus of Bais Yakov. It is not a secret that Mr. and Mrs. Chayes chose to honor us because of my wife's involvement, Be'ezus Hashem, with God's help, with coordinating the very well-received Le'elo Women's Program. They want to acknowledge all of the hours of time, effort, and coordinating every last detail that I can personally attest to my wife puts into each Le'elo program. So why include me in this honor? The obvious public relations reason would be that typically the honoree has to get up and speak. It can't be my wife. After all, it's a Bais Yakov dinner, and Bais Yakov promotes tznius, modesty. It just wouldn't fly for my wife to get up there and receive an honor. So the Chayises had to include me, have me do all the work, prepare a speech, stand here, and so to say, take a hit for the team. That's a nice PR reason, but far from the truth. The real reason why I am being honored for my wife's contribution to Le'elo and whatever other Tzarchei Tzibur communal involvements she's involved in is because if not for my sacrifice, there would not be any Le'elo. The very program named Le'elo means to rise up, to go up. The one thing that has for surely gone up is the frequency that I have to change diapers and wash dishes so that my wife can busy herself with these programs. In the same vein, the invitation should have also said, and families, since Yisrael Eliezer, Shmuel Meir, and Bracha Freda always pitch in before and during events. I always find it amusing that the number one topic for women's programming is to bring in a guest speaker, Evan Heller, or the like, to offer women advice how to best juggle all of their responsibilities. When the fact is, with all these programs and classes for women outside the home, the husbands do all the juggling. All joking aside, I'm happy to stand up here on behalf of my wife and myself in order to benefit this wonderful institution of Bais Yakov Boston. The truth is that when the Chayises approached us, it really was not a convenient time. It was a Motzei Shabbos, 2 weeks before Pesach. My wife was starting a new job, and in general, we have a lot going on. So why did we agree to be honored? Or perhaps more accurately, to be a communal sacrifice, a carbon tzibur, in order to benefit Bais Yakov. I want to borrow a brief yet profound thought that really underscores the essential and critical role of the Bais Yakov of Boston. Around 20 years ago, the second Rosh Hashiva, the Dean of Ner Israel Middle College, Rav Yaakov Weinberg, Zecher Tzadik L'Bracha, was invited by a secular audience to speak about the topic of feminism. During that lecture, he made the following profound observation. We know that throughout Jewish history, there have been great threats to the survival and eternity of the Jewish people. In our time, we would think persecution, assimilation, terrorism are the greatest threats. However, my Rosh Hashiva saw things differently. He said that the dispute that we're going to read about in a couple of weeks from now, that Korah waged against Moshe Rabbeinu, against Moses, was one of the greatest threats to the eternity of Klal Yisrael. Because Korah was challenging the prophecy of Moses. And without Moses, without Moshe, there is no Torah, there is no Bible. Without the Torah, we have no purpose and will not continue to be. My Rosh Hashiva continued to say something that may make some of us uncomfortable. But if you really take the time to digest, you will see how true and compelling it is. Rabbi Weinberg said that in our generation, there is an equal, if not greater threat to the survival of the Jewish people. And it affects everyone in some form or another, from the most secular Jew to the most Haredi insular Jew in Bnei Brak. That threat is the threat of feminism and the women's rights movement. What? How can the attitudes and ambitions of women affect the eternity of Klal Yisrael? I don't want to get into all the ramifications of his remarkable statement. However, the simplest understanding is that feminism inevitably results in competition between the genders. It is one thing if society wants to embrace competition between the genders in the workplace, academia, and wherever else outside the home. However, it will inevitably seep into family life between husband and wife. And when that happens, that is a recipe for disaster. Unhappy marriages, dysfunctional families, and broken homes. The ABCs and foundation of Bnei Israel, of the Jewish people, are stable and emotionally sound families, which is rooted in both partners understanding and respecting their proper role and function in the marriage. Without healthy, stable Jewish families, without Shalom Bais, there is no eternal Klal Yisrael. My focus is not to talk about the negative cultural effects that continuously plague our society. For that, you can listen to conservative talk radio. I just want to borrow from my Rosh Hashiva's insight that we see how critical the woman, a key player is in the family unit. It is to the stability and survival, not simply of her family, but to Jewish eternity. If the husband and wife of the home are infused with rich and healthy Torah hashkafos, proper life goals and attitudes, then they are the very ingredients for the eternity of Klal Yisrael, because they are the future of Klal Yisrael. The Bais Yakov in general, and Bais Yakov of Boston, with its unique programming in particular, is the incubator and fertile ground with which a Jewish girl in our society can safely develop her unique identity within the framework of Torah values and flourish into the spiritually and emotionally healthy daughter, sister, and mother that we all depend on. With such a foundation, she will actualize the unique potential every Jewish woman has to assume the pivotal role in establishing her own home and ensure the nitzvahs, the eternity of the Jewish people. Indeed, there are many great causes that help protect our future, to help ward off the threats to our survival. To invest in those causes is to help safeguard and protect our future. However, to invest in the Torah education of girls and boys is to directly invest in the future Klal Yisrael. My wife and I are humbled and honored at the privilege to help Bais Yakov under the leadership of the principal, Rabbi Tzvi Levin, Mr. and Mrs. Chayes, Rabbi Dessler, and all the outstanding staff to continue their incredible work of providing the environment that enables the girls to flourish and subsequently Klal Yisrael to flourish. We thank you all for your continued support of Bais Yakov Boston.